Don't you think it's about time for a podcast that's more fulfilling? One that's about the vibrant exchange of ideas and perspectives that happens when we actually come together. We got you covered. Welcome to the Deep Blue Project, where the depths of conversation meet the waves of personal experience. This is a real, raw, and unscripted show about everything from leadership lessons to self-awareness, wellness, and the latest current events. We cover it all. We have a rotating cast of guests as we share our personal stories, insights, and opinions on the issues that matter most. Plus, we have a blast while doing it. The Deep Blue Project. It's not just a podcast, it's an experience. And now your host, Chris Workman.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Deep Blue Project. We are going to do something a little different here. I decided to bring together a bunch of my friends to just kind of have a chat. It may be a little chaos. It's going to be a lot of fun, but we're going to enjoy it. I have a bunch of folks with me who I've put together. But first off, I want to welcome my friend Michaël Laider. Mike, how you doing, buddy?
You know me looking at Mike's expensive looking microphone. So now I'm wondering if I need to go wire mine up or not. But I'm like, you know what? Just forget. I'm just going MacBook microphone because I don't know if I go in and find my AirPods are right here. But no, I'm doing great. Enjoying this Texas heat. Just excited to be on the podcast with you guys today.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you're here, brother. We have David Struwing from Louisiana.
From way down south. How's everybody doing, man?
And my buddy Mike Slocum. How you doing, brother?
Good to see you, fellas. I know all you, and I've talked to all you before, so I'm looking forward to catching up again.
So this is just, you know how this goes, you know how this rolls, much like Michaël Laider's podcast, which we love also. We just kind of get into it, and we figured we'd get together, just talk about a few things. We're going to start with a little bit of how we believe leadership in law enforcement is kind of doing right now. And what we're going to do is just kind of put it out there. We've all been to some conferences lately. Michaël Laider's been out there teaching and giving his keynote speeches. Mike Slocum's been out there on his trips into the woods with all the boys and girls.
Good
Dave,
stuff.
he's down there trying to put something together. So how do you guys think, how do you think this leadership is really starting to pick up and go right now? Because I know we're all out there trying to kind of push that mantra and teach those classes.
I mean, I'll speak from my personal experience, buddy. I mean, 31 years of doing this, and this is my first time in 3 decades where I actually have an environment and a leadership staff that's actually at the front edge. They're all about what we're preaching and what we're doing. And that's the first time I've ever had that in my career. I've got not just one, but like an entire team. Everybody in our agency from top to bottom across the board is all on board with it. The analogy I use is we're all playing from the same sheet of music. We're just playing different instruments. So each person brings a little bit different value to add to the process. And, it's really great. From my perspective, it's fantastic. It's the best environment I've worked in my professional career.
I would love to be and I'm usually the optimistic person in most environments, but right. I'm going to take a little bit different angle. I don't think it's really changing as much as we think it is. And I think it's because there's so many moving pieces, something we talked about like just in the past before. And I think there's always improvement, but I don't really think anything's getting like marginally better. I think it's the still status quo quotas of us training. It's just like you got guys like Dave now that's in other roles that's making it better. But then you got guys in another agency that left that role. So you're going back to the norm. So I don't know if there's any significant changes in leadership that's gotten better. Obviously, there's the 4 of us that's always trying to make it better. But right. I still find us in the same situation that we were in before, where it's like lack of delegation, lack of feedback, lack of the ability to grow your staff, not understanding cultural shifts, not understanding budget. I think we're still going through that. And I don't know if it's getting better. It's always people trying. I just don't know if it's getting better yet.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with Laider on that. I think it sounds like Dave's found a good spot for him. The challenge remains. I see, the baby boomer generation by and large has stepped out. And what I'm seeing is that probably 2/3 of a lot of the organizations in my area have probably on average of 5 years or less of experience. And that's leaving that other third that's, somewhere between probably 10 and 20 plus years to carry the leadership load. And it's a tremendous undertaking and a stressor, really. So it's kind of a interesting time to lead, I think.
Yeah, I think I think Michael hit it on the head. I think we're trying to find this gap. I think right now a lot of us, well, myself, I'm on my way out, quite honestly. So you're trying to find, like, who's that person that's going to take over for me when I walk out the door, and how do I set them up for that success when I do walk out the door. Unfortunately, to your point, it's trying to get these people that are only have those, them 10 to 15 years on to really buy into it, because they're just happy. Quite honestly, I'm finding they're happy being a subordinate. They're happy just being in that role. They don't want your role. Like, they don't want to be the boss. They see what you're doing now, because if you're doing it right, you're showing them and they're seeing it. You're not hiding it behind closed doors. And they're like, hey, I want no parts of that. Like, I don't want to do that. Like, I'd rather just, work my way through the system. I don't know. I mean, how are you seeing that, Dave, in your area?
So it's funny you mention that, because, I mean, where I came from when I was up in Illinois, that was me. I was that guy. I never promoted at my last agency for a wide variety of reasons. The biggest one was trust. And it wasn't my leadership that I didn't trust. I didn't trust the guy that ran our town. He was a liar. That's all it was. I mean, he flat out lied about me to my chief and forgot that, hey, guess what? We just signed off on putting in dash cams. The entire thing was captured on tape, and he was called out on it. And I was like, nope, I don't want to be any part of that circus. I didn't want anything to do with it, so I never did. I was content just being a patrol officer, and I pushed through 24 years, did my thing, and when it was time for me to go, it was time for me to go. What I've seen since I've gotten down here, though, so I've been down in Louisiana now for 6 years, a little over 6.5. And when I first got down here to LSU, it was very similar. A lot of command and control from the top leadership. Really a different dynamic. Working on a college campus is just a different world, because it's not your traditional politics. You have the traditional politics within the agency, and then you have this whole university academic dynamic that you have to work with. And it's just a different environment. It took me a little bit of getting used to. Once I figured it out, I was content to try and dip my toes into that leadership pool, if you would. And I made sergeant after a year, and it was great. And I thought my star was rising up there, and I thought that was where I was going to end up finishing up my second career. But lo and behold, things happen, and an opportunity presented itself to do something that I had never had before, and that's building something literally from the ground up. So the work that we're doing at, DOTD Police I tell people all the time, I go, we're not in the infancy stage, we're embryonic. I mean, we're not even out of the womb yet. We are so small, and we're just getting started. Chief and I were on a call earlier today, and he was talking to a vendor, and he was pointing out the fact that not until July 1st does this agency turn 3. That's it. We don't even have 30 agents, sworn personnel in the entire state. And in order for us to get to where we want to go, we need like 200 to 250. So there is a tremendous amount of work left for us to do. And Chris, you talk about getting ready for that next wave, because like you, I'm ready to walk out the door. I've got less than 5 left. 2030 could be the year. If I decide I want to go, I'll go. I'll be vested, and that'll be plenty of time in this profession. But if I want to stick around, I'll stick around. But what I want to do in that time is I want to help this agency build and have that be our legacy. What we've done is we've created an environment, a unique environment in law enforcement, where it was done the right way from the very get-go. And it took Jeff Melchior, my boss, he's been chief now for just over a year, but it took him some time to kind of weed things out and get it all sorted out and kind of get everybody pointed in the right direction. But now we're heading in that direction. We'll see where it goes. I don't know if we grow to 250 in the time that I have left, but I'd love to be part of it. So, but yeah, that whole aspect of, the leadership mentality, and I see it in a lot of different agencies, because when I was over at LSU, Michael, you were there for game day. You see how crazy that is, right? I mean, we have hundreds of officers from multiple different agencies all across the capital region down there, all working game day, and we're all on different channels and doing different things. And you hear the stories from your colleagues that you're working with out on campus, and some are good, some are bad, some are great, some are just, you shake your head in amazement, go, I'm amazed that you're not in jail. There are certain things people still do, and you just go, okay, good on you. But, right. I'm not down for sitting shoulder to shoulder with someone in a federal courthouse at this juncture of my life and my career. So I made sure I steered clear of all the shenanigans and did things the right way.
Right. So what are you seeing out there, Michael, that you're out there kind of doing your keynotes and teaching. What are some of the things that people kind of, some ideas of what people address to you? Because I know a lot of times when we speak, we get them stragglers that kind of come up afterwards and ask like, how do you deal with this? What are you seeing with that?
From my side as a speaker, it's kind of struggling with the succession planning, and not necessarily the implementation of succession planning, but finding people to put into it. Because now you have chiefs and sheriffs, wardens, directors, train directors, and they're like, Mike, I don't have anybody to sit in this chair later. Nobody really wants this. Like,
Right.
We have the next generation of employees, and they've seen what's happened to their parents or to the people that they loved, and they've seen how they've gotten beaten up in law enforcement, and then they've gotten beaten up in the leadership levels of law enforcement. And they're just like,
Right.
it's like, so I'm only gonna make another 10 grand a year to get all of that. You know what? I'm just gonna do a little side hustle, and I'm gonna make up that 10 grand without my phone ringing at 2 a.m. on a Saturday morning when I'm supposed to be spending time with my family. So what I have been learning and discovering is that part of like agencies' cultures, it's starting to become almost like a division. It's like, we want people to lead, we want strong leadership, but there's not as many people that are, I guess, good enough. I guess that's the best way, that want to be leaders. A lot of them are just being put into the position based on default because you have to have a chief. You have to have a deputy chief. You have to have a lieutenant, sergeant, however that leadership rank goes. And then sometimes it's like, well, who's the last man or woman standing? And that's the person we're going to put in. And then that's when you start seeing that culture messed up, because it's like, well, how can I go tell this 5 or 10 year guy to go tell these old dogs what to do? Like, right. How are we going to tell that? How are we going to have that the babyface killer out there go tell somebody that's 5 years to retirement, like David, what to do? And it's hard because you're getting more of that. And it's not because agencies want that. So for me, I see the leadership where we're struggling is finding people that want to lead, qualified people, because you don't have that same level of urgency to make the organization better. You have great people, but they're not necessarily looking at making it better with leadership titles. They just want to be there, kind of influencing, but without actually making the decisions overall.
Sometimes we forget. We always take Mike as, he's the frontline freedom guy, but we always forget that Mike is a police lieutenant and he is still working. Yes. So I mean, what do you see in Paynesville, Mike? Like, how are you seeing that makeup, like where you're working and how that's kind of starting to flush out?
I mean, you do have people that want to step up and take those roles, and they, like Laider said, they might not be quite ready yet, but then you have other people who are capable that don't want to. They don't want to get the scars. I mean, they see all the time, energy, effort, and all the work you put in, and kind of the I don't say backlash that comes with it, but they see you getting cut and they don't want that. And my advice to them is, you only live once, right? And you only grow through adversity, and anybody in history has scars. I mean, you go back and look just in our history as a country, and some of your most fabled leaders, and George Washington and Abraham Lincoln and Teddy Roosevelt, just as a few examples, have all had tremendous adversities and scars, but they've left great legacies, and certainly something to be proud of and revered. If you want to be a nobody, then you're not going to have any scars. And I don't think anybody really wants to be a nobody. Everybody wants to contribute and bring something of value. You're going to have to go out and get the scars, and that's just the way it is. You want to live a purpose-driven life, at least from my perspective. Anyway, I think most people would want that, but I guess it is disheartening to see, when people are too afraid to face that adversity. So yeah, it's everything Laider's talking about. We're dealing with. So
yeah, I think that when we look at what I'm finding is, I hate to go back to that generational thing, because I mean, I think I felt myself getting out of it, because we always talked about that, they never listen, or they're always wanting to be off, or they're always wanting to do this. But we kind of look at it like, we can't argue the fact that, one, most of these people are our kids. Like, we taught them to be that way. Like,
these are the kids. Mental wellness.
Yeah.
When was the last time the leader could take a day off effectively?
Exactly. And we're pushing that now, and we're trying to go and we're trying to say, hey, but where does that come for those who are at the top? It makes it very hard to do that. I mean, for me, I mean, it makes it real hard. I have a staff of 6 people. Like when I want to try to, I have to. It has to be an act of Congress for me to find a way to maneuver all of that to have somebody there. I mean, but we complain about that, but we're looking at things and going, do they? But they don't have that part, I guess, that we were all brought up with. That, and I think that's where the generational thing is. To Mike's point of having that drive to want to be that next level, to want to say, I want to be that guy. I want to strive to be that person who's running an organization. I want to strive to be that person who's running whatever it may be, and kind of fostering yourself to do that. I don't see that a lot. To Michael's point, when he was saying earlier about just people don't want it. They don't want to take that, for 10,000 more, they don't want to take that burden on because, well, come on, let's be real. I mean, it's freaking stressful. It's, as you said, like my phone just rang just before Memorial Day morning at 3:19 in the morning for a domestic and a stabbing that happened. And I'm like, there's nobody else to answer that.
Yeah. But 6 people, that's all. Somebody, ain't many of y'all.
My phone's ringing.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to give it to you. I have a very great lieutenant. She takes care of things. I called her up. She went in because she's closer. She handled it and knows she can call me if she needs me. I mean, but that's just kind of the things that you do. And people don't want that call. They want to be off. Like when they go home, they don't want you calling them and saying, hey, you got to come back in. And that's what we're finding. I think the trouble is trying to find those individuals in this day and age in these organizations that are going to be able to do that. I think that's where we're kind of lacking or trying to figure it out.
Chris, I'm going to jump in real quick.
Part
here.
of that, though.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead. Mike.
I just wanted to throw this in there because I'm mowing the grass the other day and I'm listening to a podcast and I can't remember who it was. It was probably a bunch of people, but somebody brought up the point that it's so easy to win today at whatever you apply yourself to because the great majority of people are unwilling to go beyond the first adversity or the second adversity or the third adversity. And that's why I like you guys, because you guys are, jet pilots, right? You're pushing every day. You're not crop dusting, right? You're going against the grain and you keep going. You get knocked down, you get up, you get knocked down, you get up. And people who will do that are going to win. The people that don't do that are the majority of the people. They give up at the first or second or third adversity, and it's so easy to excel and be a winner and to achieve your dreams, whatever they may be. So you gotta go for it, and that's just, you take a look around you and see that people are not willing to put the work or the effort in, and if you want to succeed, you can do it. No matter what it is that you're trying to succeed at.
David, you were saying something?
Yeah, what I was going to say is when you start talking about that, as far as trying to make sure you have the proper person, right? You're putting yourself in the position for succession planning and trying to find the right people and along the fit, right? So you can take it all the way back to recruiting. If you're not hiring the right people, down the line, you're going to be in that same position. You're going to have these problems because you have people that are content doing nothing. They're showing up, they're collecting a paycheck. And unfortunately, this is not sales. This is not working in an office. This is law enforcement. And, we're kind of in this rut now where if you can fog a mirror, we'll take you, and we're settling for the wrong type of people. We're recruiting the wrong type of people. And then when you get those people on your staff, I don't know about you guys, but when I would do my evaluations, that was always the bulk of what I would have conversations with people about. It wasn't just a one time a year. I would get together with my people on a regular basis. How's everything going? Where do you see yourself at the end of the year? What can I do to help facilitate where you want to get to? But if you're not having those honest conversations with people, you're going to be real hard pressed trying to find that diamond in the rough that's going to want. Like Mike says, you want to find someone that wants to step up and do this job. But what's the old saying, Chris? It's lonely at the top. It is a hard job. A guy I got hired with back in 1994, he made chief. Not at our last agency. He left and went to a different department. But he told me when he was halfway through, when I was still up in Illinois, and he's like, you guys might have been onto something. He's talking about myself and a couple of other old timers that, never promoted. He's like, because this is some BS, man. I'm not digging this at all, because it's a grind. And Chris, you can relate to this sentiment. And he says, when he became chief, he says, it's a much smaller department, and smaller departments, smaller community, smaller town, small town politics. So he has to play nice with these small town politicians who think that they're elected officials in the city of Chicago or the state of Illinois at a much larger level. Like, man, you're a municipal elected official. The guy I told you about, that guy was an insurance agent, and not even a good one. He didn't build the agency. His dad built the agency, not him. So
well, I think
a lot of it goes back to finding that right person, right?
Yeah, I found that comes into when I started. I mean, I've been the chief where I am I'm in my 13th year, but that came from when I walked in the door, having the conversation with the people who were sitting at the table and going, hey, look, I'll communicate with you anything. Like, having that open communication and being able to talk to them, I think solves a lot of that problem. Like, you starting that from Get Street as the chief of police, like coming in and going, like, from day one, like, this is how you know me. This is what I'm going to do with these situations. This is how we're going to have conversations. I can let you know about this. I won't let you know about that. If you have a problem, come to me. I think that's all those problems that a lot of times I see that small town municipal officers or chiefs sometimes, and I'm not saying all of them, so don't go crucifying me that I'm saying it's all of them, but some of them have that mentality. Like, they walk into a town and they sit in the big boy chair and they're like, I'm the boss. What I say goes, and that's it, no matter who I'm talking to. And you just can't do that. It just doesn't go do that. But I want to go back to what Mike started talking about, and I'm gonna bring Michael in here because it's something that Michael talks about all the time, and it's his idea and his framework of winning the battle between the ears. He talks about it all the time. It's a mindset thing. So I want to get to Michael and kind of. Don't throw it all out there. I don't want you to give your whole philosophy. I want people to have to come see you, but, kind of a little piece of what you mean when you talk about that.
Well, for me, it's always about how do we control what's going on between our ears, because everything that goes on between the ears dictates everything else we do. So no matter if you're running a police department, train department, hiking tours for FBI NA, if you're not mentally right, then it doesn't really make a difference what else is going on, because you're never going to be at full capacity for anything else you do. So I tell people any mental wellness, resilience, even leadership training is you got to work on yourself first. If you're not working on yourself, you're going to actually fail the people that you're trying to impact. Let me repeat that. If you don't work on yourself, you're going to fail the people that you are trying to impact. There's no secret formula, because if you burn out, what do you think they're going to see? Or what do you think they're going to think? We've had leaders, all of us at some point, that have burned out or has done the worst, committed suicide or end up in a hospital. And we're like, man, if that happened to him or her, that can happen to all of us. So for us to be that strong leader, for us to make leadership look like it's appropriate and something that you want to get into, you got to go take care of yourself. And a lot of that is mentally for me. Like, of course, I love hiking. I love working out. But what else am I doing to slow my brain down? Whatever that looks like. And it's different for everybody. Do we have stress? Yes. Do we have more stress in law enforcement? Of course. But we always have to take those moments and find what works for us. For me, I love traveling. I love eating. So almost every quarter, I'm going somewhere. I mean, I'm going to Paris next month. And I know I just got back from Turkey the month before. But to me, that's my way of de-stressing. They're like, how do you afford this? Well, I find inexpensive flights. I'm not staying in 5-star resorts. Right. I'm finding Airbnbs and stuff like that. Sometimes some back alley rooms. Nah, I'm not doing that. But
hanging out in a Turkish bath.
Yeah. I'm hanging out. If there's a room with 20 people, there's one bed for me. I'm good. No, I'm not that hardcore. But for me, I tell people you got to find something that works. So I love what Mike is doing with the hiking, and Dave, what you're building, and Chris, just what you're doing with Deep Blue Project, because it's things that you guys are doing for yourself as well that people don't maybe realize, and they think it's about everybody else. But for me, to win that battle between the ears, it's finding what works for you and building, because we can eliminate stress. And I talk about that all the time. People are like, well, how do I get rid of stress? You can't. So it's a misconception. And statistically, you should have a little bit of stress in your life at all times. Now, there's that limit, but some people are like, I want to eliminate. I'm like, well, you're going to stress yourself out by trying to get rid of stress. You just have to manage what you have and then just work your brain. And for me, that's what I think some of our leaders are facing. We're burning out the higher we go without proper training and development. And then we're projecting that onto the people that we want to take our spot. So we're looking burned out, rugged, dying early. Who wants to do that? Like, that's not sexy. Nobody wants that. I mean, Dave's the only one that looks like he's 35 on this whole video. I mean, and that's if he hasn't been in a leadership role until 31 years. Exactly. Dave's like, you know what? I'm close to the end anyway, so I'm just going to just go out strong. I was like, Dave technically almost has the magic formula because he's the only one that's so much young in the whole group. I mean, I've been having grace since I was 20. I mean, it's like one of those situations. It's like, well, I see somebody doing it, but needs to say, it's really about the mindset. I know I joke around about it, but that's part of life too. But we really got to look at ourselves if we want to lead others, because if we're not the image that we want them to be, we can't lie to them and do it. So we have to take that time for ourselves. So winning the battle between the ears, that encapsulates what activities are you doing in a nutshell? How are you managing stress in your life? And how are you projecting that to others, especially if you're trying to lead them down the right path?
I think that's just the reason I brought that out is because that's what we talk about all the time. I think that's what Mike does with his trips, what I do with Deep Blue, and what you do when you're out there, and what Dave's starting to do. That's why I brought this group together, is because to let people understand, like, it's not that we don't have our struggles. It's not that we don't have our problems. And the things that brought us here are things that we work on every day. But we do these things because that's our mindset to help us. It does help us. It allows us to talk about the things, to have the conversations, to go out and speak about them, and continue to build on our own stressful and change in our own mindset. And that's what a lot of the problem that I think I see is just that. What's your mindset going in? Do you have a win mindset? Do you want to win at whatever you're doing? I have a problem. I hate to lose. I can't stand it. Like, when I started going back to school and I decided to go and get my associate's degree, I was like, you know what? I'm already a chief, but I could learn something. And then I got through that and I'm like, well, what's the next one? So go get your bachelor. So I went and did. So what's the next one? I'm working on a master's now, because I feel if I'm not continuing to better myself each and every day, that I'm not doing myself any justice. But I think all of you guys do that. And I think that's the mindset that you guys put out there when you're doing things, especially I think I still have to get, and I think it's a great idea to get a group of all of us to do Mike's little hike on a weekend, because I think that would be freaking awesome for all of us to show up at the same time.
I agree.
And just go do this. And me and Laider, we could just bring our podcast stuff with us, and we'll just do podcasts from the mountain.
Yeah.
But
I would.
Mike with his Frontier Freedom is just, I mean, that is just awesome. That is like something that I would never have thought of until we started talking. And I think, Mike, you could expand on that a little bit. I know we talked about it last time you were on, but just how that affects and what you see that does for the people that are out there when they take these hikes.
Yeah, for me, it wasn't something that, I closed my eyes and dreamed about doing, or, that it would be the cure to what ailed me. Losing the 5 guys from our police department between 2019 and 2021, having a miscarriage, having to put the dog down, losing a cousin to suicide during that same time frame, on top of just the job itself, which, as first responders, society has really high expectations of us, and rightfully so, but we're tasked with dealing with a lot of society's complex issues, and oftentimes we're underfunded, we're understaffed, we're overworked, which just leads to feelings of burnout, of underappreciation sometimes. And, we really need a place that we can go to turn down the noise and to reflect on everything. So for me, during that time period, I was looking for stillness, for peace, for an opportunity to reflect. And I found that in the wilderness. And it just so happened to be on a train ride in Skagway, Alaska, of all places, when I'm looking out the window at the beauty of nature, and it just a calm feeling came over me, and it just allowed me the opportunity to shut down all those open tabs in my mind. And I love using the tab analogy because none of us can ever turn off everything in our head, whether it's work or home or bills or responsibilities or what have you. The only way to do that is to find something that helps you turn those down so that you can live in the moment for once. And it doesn't have to be hiking. Laidler and I talked about it. Could be whitewater rafting where the only thing that you can really focus on at the time is where your next paddle's going in the water. So hiking does that for me and for a lot of people. You leave the parking lot and you start walking and you got to watch where you're stepping. We're not hiking on pavement, so there's obstacles out there just like in life, and the trail's a lot like that. And so, there's roots and mud and rocks and elevation changes. And next thing you know, you're having to worry about your breathing, right? So that kind of falls into the meditation and things like that. Next thing you know, all these tabs are shut down and you're living in the present for the first time in a long time. And then as you continue to hike and walk, you really can sort out, what's important, what's not important. If you've had some life ambushes, you lose people, bad situations, things like that, you can kind of start working through them and make sense of it, and you reflect on it, and then you can respond better. And that's kind of the whole idea there. And what Laidler was talking about with between the ears, it's a mental game. Life's a lot mental, right? There was a book years ago that I think a Police One, I was reading an article, this is a long time ago. The book's called As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. I don't know if you guys have ever read that, but he likens your mind to a garden, and gardens constantly need tending to. You clear the land, you plant the seeds, but you have to come back every day and you got to water it, and you got to pull the weeds out, and the bugs start showing up, and all kinds of the forest critters want to get into your as they begin to sprout. So yeah, that's so important. And that's why I like hiking and backpacking, and it falls in with the between the ears thing. It really just gives you an opportunity to reset. So hopefully that explains it well enough for you, Chris.
Nah, I think it does. I think it explains it well enough for everybody. I think you just get to that, just exactly what you said. It gets to that point where you never really think you know what you're going to be doing until you kind of start doing it. I mean, if you asked me, before I started this podcast, would I ever be doing a podcast that we're talking to, like, I could have never thought of that a year and a half ago. I'd have been like, it's something that I guess I think there's truth to the fact that you end up where you belong sooner or later. Like, something puts you where you're supposed to be. If you can get to that point, where I had to find a place and I had to sit down and figure out, I came to that middle ground. What was I going to do? Was I going to give up and do nothing? Or was I going to figure it out? And as to your point, tackle that adversity again and figure out where I'm at. And for the first time in years, like, I can say that I live each day, and don't get me wrong, I'm still in law enforcement. I still have to deal with everybody else's BS and everything that goes on. But I think I've found a new way of being able to handle those things as they occur instead of trying to just push them away. And that's what's before. And I think that's been with the help of all of you. Like, all of you have been a big part of that journey for me. And that's why, we're together now. And that's why we talk all the time. I mean, Michael and I, when I got started, like, from the day we met at FBI Lita, 2 years ago, like, I know that I can call him at any time, or he'll call me and we'll have a conversation. Or if I have questions, he's been doing it a while. So you have those people, Dave, him and I have known each other, same thing. I mean, we call each other, deal with things all the time. So I talk about finding your tribe all the time. And, like, to you, for all you listening, like, this is a big part of my tribe who's right here on these, talking to you today. And I wanted to bring everybody together because they all have been a great impact, not only to me, but to a lot of other people in what they do. And I think that is important that we talk about and that we deal with things. And you've heard a lot today. We've kind of been all over the place, but I'm going to give every one of my guests today a little chance to just kind of give you a final thought and, leave you with something that kind of can help you, I mean, as you move on down the road. And somewhere, I'm sure we're going to try to do this again. So Dave, I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you want to kick it off, you can just kick it off there and give everybody a little something, and whatever you want to talk about, that's fine.
Well, I think that you hit the nail on the head in regards to this little community right here, right? So your tribe and your group, and it goes back to the cornerstone, at least for me, right? I mean, it's all about trust and evolution. I'm not content staying where I am. I want to continue to grow and evolve and get better and do things more than what I've done in the past. I promoted down here for the first time because I was doing so much leadership-based stuff away from my job. I wanted to know if I was any good at it at my job, right? But it started with establishing that trust and trying to do it different. What's the old adage? Be the boss you want to work for. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to be that guiding force for not just the new people that are coming into the organization, but also I'm trying to do that at home with my kids, with my wife, with my extended family. It's a little bit harder for us because we're down here in Louisiana and they're all back up in Illinois. So I don't see them as often. But, at the drop of a hat, we're there. They know that they can trust if they need anything. They pick up the phone and we're there. But really, it's that basic premise for me to help bridge those relationships so that we can continue to grow and evolve. Without trust, you have nothing, at least for me.
All righty. Mr. Slocum, got something for us there today?
Yeah, I'll close out with this. First of all, thank you for the invite to the podcast, and it's a pleasure to be on with Dave and Laidler. Getting an invite for something like this is not something I'm really accustomed to when we're talking about leadership. I think the leadership challenge is really hard, and that's why I'm so intrigued about leadership and studying some of the past greats and things like that. And, you talk about like these FBI LEADA or FBI National Academy courses and all the training that's out there. And you go to the training and you sit in class and it's a static environment, right? We can bring up, this scenario or that scenario, or what would you do here or there? But generally speaking, leadership in the field is a completely different ballgame. We talk in law enforcement about tense, fast evolving situations, and that you have to rely on your training and things like that. And to take an academic or principle-based argument from a classroom and apply it to, hey, I didn't get any sleep last night because X, Y, or Z at home, and I go into work and all about me is out of control because it's a Monday and you're getting pulled in every direction, and maybe you're hungry and you're tired, and whatever the case is, leadership is really hard, and leadership under fire. And so I appreciate the invite to be here. I find it to be a challenge. I make mistakes all the time. We all do. And I guess, if we're talking about leadership today and going into the future, I guess my message would be to your audience is, just going back to some of the stuff that we've talked about today, is you can win, but it's going to hurt and you're going to have scars. And, for me, there's no other way I'd rather live. I know that when I come to work every day, I really do try to do my best. And, I could put my head on the pillow at night and rest. That doesn't mean I don't have regrets. It doesn't mean that, there's not something I need to work on. This is the leadership challenge, right? So it's really cool to talk leadership, and it's such a struggle, and I really do enjoy the challenge. You're trying for that self-actualization, and can you ever get there? I don't think you will, but I'm enjoying the journey, and I appreciate being on with you guys and talking leadership.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. Well, to my buddy there, Mr. Laidler, I strive to be this guy someday. Sooner or later, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be a Laidler protege when it comes down to it. But Mike, give him some of that wisdom, brother.
I'm going to start by saying, just value yourself. Like, sometimes it's the hardest thing, but the easiest thing to do at the same time. And we allow everything else around us to create our own value. And what I've learned, especially in the speaking business and developing a business in this world, is what I gain is based on what I put into myself. I know that's completely different than what all of us as government employees have experienced, because a lot of times, as long as you show up and you can put fog in the mirror, as Dave said earlier, that's all that's really needed to get that paycheck every 2 weeks. But if you want to see your maximum potential and you want to see how you can get to the top of that mountain with Mike, it has to be with you. It has to be creating that value, developing and learning what makes you wake up every morning. Because without that, everything else we talk about is null and void. It's just there. We're going through the motions. And then next thing you know, you're in your 70s and 80s looking back at your life saying, man, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have gone there. Keep it simple. Value yourself, whatever that looks like. And I know they're like, man, that's a very vague answer, but the answer is really yours. I love to travel. Mike likes to hike. Dave likes to work out. Chris likes to try to keep his hair. I don't know. Everybody has their own thing that they're trying to value. But at the end of the day, it's really up to you as the person. So for me, to keep it simple and to keep it easy for people to kind of do, value yourself. And once you start doing that consistently and realizing an agency, an office, even your family members don't necessarily tell you what your value is. Once you learn how to do it yourself, you could take over any part of your life effectively and with minimum stress that's going to be there, but with your ability to manage it and control it.
Well, see, this is what stress does. It gets rid of that hair. It never comes back. That's why I got all this here. It reminds me that I'm old and I'm getting grizzly. But
you might be going to
gentlemen,
for a hair transplant if you keep playing around. Let us find out you an instant bull. Instant bull. He's like, I'm just gonna go. I'm going to hike. Mike said it was better than Alaska to go hiking, so I'm just gonna go try it out. It's like, now you got hair 6 months later. Something don't add up about this trip.
You know. Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you very, very, very much for coming on. I hope to anybody listening to this, man, I hope you enjoyed it because I damn sure did. I always do when I get these guys together. It's even more fun when I can put everybody in a group and we get to laugh and talk with each other because this is what we do and this is how we get through it. But if you take anything from it, I think the biggest thing is, like, own yourself. Own yourself first. Be yourself. Be happy with who you are, because after that, everything else works out. I mean, you just got to get there. It's a hard road. Trust me, I know. You got to work at it, but you can achieve it. You can achieve it. So thank you, guys. Thank you for listening to Deep Blue Project today. I appreciate you being on. I got to get one of them fancy dancy microphones like Mike Slocum got. That thing is like $2,000, right?
High level. Next level right there. Yeah. Next level.
Right.
Take care, guys. Stay safe.
You've been listening to the Deep Blue Project. As a father, husband, friend, and someone who loves to chat about anything and everything, Chris brings over 3 decades of public service experience to the table. With a background in firefighting and law enforcement, along with degrees in criminal justice and behavioral science, he's seen it all, and he's learned a thing or two along the way. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, find us on LinkedIn and X at Deep Blue Project. Find our website at deepblueproject.com. And to reach out, send an email to deepblueproject@outlook.com. Keep keeping it real, and we'll see you next time on the Deep Blue Project.